Morning.
I don't. Did any of you get the message about the Creativity Festival?
I saw it, but I haven't read it through yet.
I haven't read it. I saw it.
Well, I was wondering, because it asked for people's responses. In a way, we could give some sort of response today, which saves us having to write it, which
Oh, okay.
I always prefer to do. So
Yeah.
go on. Yeah. So what they do is they ask 4 questions. Yeah. So can I start off with one?
Yeah.
Okay, the first one, which we can go around and ask people for their views on it. Do you have a favourite moment of being in the Elders? Anybody like to start? Your favourite moment of being in the Elders?
I do, but I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, go on, Jim.
Well done. It was the first winter that I was in the Elders. It was coming up to Christmas, and the markets were outside and all lit up. Whatever you think about the markets, they're all colourful, aren't they? And I think I've been in Candles or somewhere around that. And I was walking around, and I came up to the theatre, and we were rehearsing for the space between us, and I just sort of looked up, and the lights were on in the front room where we used to do the rehearsals, and everything was lit up, and I just got this great big lump, and I thought, I can't believe it, I'm going into the Royal Exchange to a rehearsal, and it just hit me like that it was little old me going into the Royal Exchange actually to a rehearsal. So that was definitely a moment. And I did tell Andy at the time, but I've never told anybody else.
Oh, that's
We'll
lovely.
all be like that, aren't we, when we go back? We're all going to feel like that.
Just as Christine's sake, and Derek, who's just arrived. Hello, Derek. Long time no here. We all should have had an email about asking for our thoughts on the Age of Creativity Festival, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to go around and ask some of the questions and see what people would respond, which saves us having to write it because I'm recording it. So the first question was, do you have a favourite moment of being in the Elders? And Jean's just given the response. Anybody else? Gordon?
A lot of favourite memories, to be honest, but one of the first favourite memories was when we did Flicker and the Flying Books in the performance space at the library. And it was a story for 5 to 8-year-olds. And Judith's not here, unfortunately, but Judith was in it as well. And the moment was that as I was coming out, we were going into St. Peter's Square to have a photograph taken of the cast in costume. And as I was leaving the performance space, this voice said, "Hello, Grandpa." And sat on the form waiting to go in was Kay, my daughter Claire, and my grandchildren with Claire. And it was just, it was absolutely fantastic moment, really.
Lovely. Thanks for that, Gordon. Anybody else willing to share anything? Doesn't have to be. Yeah, go on.
Mine was my photo appearing in the programme. That was really something for me, because to think I'm in the Royal Exchange programme.
What was the programme for? Was it the main one or what?
It was the studio. It might have been. I think it was Touch when we did Touch.
Yes, Touch was it.
Yeah. And my photo, my name, and everybody wanted to see me and to see my photograph. It's just that did it for me.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Susan?
Yeah, well, similarly, talking about Touch, I think that was a wonderful moment for me. It really was. And to be performing in that little theatre, small theatre, and just to see all the people sitting there, and it was marvelous. I shall never forget it, never. And it was a very happy production. That's not that I'd done any others with the Royal Exchange, because everybody got on so well, and it was just fantastic. It would be lovely to do something very similar again. And you know, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that was probably the moment for me.
We're like a family, weren't we?
Oh,
Yeah.
marvelous! It was wonderful, Christine, wasn't
Very
it?
connected and family.
Yes,
You can
everybody
remember-
got on, and it was
We
just
are like a
fantastic.
family now.
You
Yeah,
can remember
it was marvellous.
everybody on it, couldn't you? You can remember everybody who was involved in it very clearly,
Yeah.
very vivid.
Yes.
Lorraine,
I was just
It was
going to say,
wonderful.
similar to what you've all said, it just waiting for waiting for the things to open, waiting
Yes.
back there, when we were all waiting just for
That
the
light,
music.
that gone
That
screen,
moment. Yes.
that little red light.
and then
That's,
that music that Derek, what
Yeah.
was it? Was,
Yeah.
Derek, what was that music again?
I can't
Sam-
remember now.
A change is going to come.
A change is going to come. Oh, I think it sends shivers down my spine every time I hear it, actually.
It does.
It's a fantastic
Nice memories when I hear it. Nice
Very
memories.
nice memory.
That was
Anybody
marvelous.
Anybody else? Sandy, did you have? Yes, Sandy.
Yeah. I can't think of moments. I just love the rehearsal and devising process. I'm not all that bothered about the performance, actually. I just love being in rehearsal and devising stuff. I really enjoyed. I mean, in terms of a single event, I really enjoyed. Some of us were asked to go in and be a crowd, so that they could record crowd noises for a production. So we spent the evening with the acting company, screaming and yelling and pummeling each other and generally creating mayhem, which was really good fun somehow. Starting things like off with his head and, you know. Away. So yeah, I like that. I also remember very clearly sitting on the stage in our town and watching the table come down.
Yeah.
The gods. I dream about that sometimes.
we were dead, all that scene, all that.
We did, weren't we, Jean? We were, yes.
Susan.
Well, I went down on a trip, and I really was not very familiar at all with Royal Exchange at that time. I don't know whether I can't remember exactly what it was. It's a trip down to the Midlands where they were performing a play, and I think we performed something too. I wasn't involved in it, but the welcome that I received by other members of the elders was fantastic. I was, you know, everybody said you could see I was new, and came up to me and said, "Oh, you're new. Who are you?" Da da da. And I sat next to several people during the trip there and back. I was terribly nervous about going, to be honest, because I didn't know anybody. But I couldn't have had a better welcome, and it was a lovely sort of visit out. They played the performance they did was marvelous. Then they gave us a very nice meal, and the whole thing is very memorable and put me off to a really good start because I didn't know anybody. I mean, the first time I went in for the Monday afternoon session, I looked round, and the only person that I recognised happened to be Bernard, because I knew him. Yeah, I knew him from the Short and Good Neighbours. But in fact, that was the opposite to be welcoming for me. I was terrified, but you know, after the first session and the ones afterwards, and when I went, I gained confidence. But it was very hard at first for me because I didn't know anybody, and then there were all this sea of faces. But
I know
I'm
how
sure
you
that-
felt, Susan, because I felt that as well. Here I am, and all these people, you know, have done a lot of thespian stuff, and they knew
Yes.
what they were doing.
it was alarming,
And
to be honest.
they're just normal people.
Yes, I know. But you see, you get out of the habit
Speak
of
for yourself.
that. When you're elderly, you just, particularly when you live in Chorlton, you see a lot of faces that you know. You might not know their names. And of course, I literally didn't know anybody there except dear Bernard.
Right,
I was so
move
pleased to
on.
see him.
Anybody else about whether the favourite moment of being in the Elders, or a favourite moment. Derek.
Yeah, I think the commonality of most people's experiences is something that's absent now. It's performing, isn't it? You know, like
Yes.
the examples we've got are people actually involved either in rehearsing or in performing, and I miss that terribly. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's already been expressed. Touch was especially a high point because of the level of collaboration. And I also think it was the excellence of it. You know, that actually from the rehearsal, the performances improved. You know, and there might be, you know, sometimes we were slightly, but I think it was the level of excellence. The only other thing that hasn't been mentioned, which I think everyone enjoyed, in your own particular year of the weekly performances. Like I enjoyed every one we had, you know, the small group stuff. And we actually did in our year, we actually did some additional group, a small group of us, called it an ad hoc group. And because we were getting so much out of it, we came and I mean, a bit like all you've done this, you know, independently of the Royal Exchange, you've regularly met and structured things. But we did that in our year, you know, and I like that experimental stuff. And because she's here, one of my first experiences is Christine, when we were very early on, we were doing a dancing exercise, and the idea was that in the Boal techniques, you're supposed to give and take. You know what I mean? When the other person sort of and pushes you, you release, and you're trying to get a middle point. But I can remember Christine just grabbing me and like a power hold and taking me across the floor, and it was so funny. And I knew I couldn't move it anywhere. And because this was right at the beginning, the funny bit was after we had this dancing, and of course we didn't know each other, and she tells me what an honor it was for me to dance with her. And it's a moment I captured, you know, she just said, you know, you lucky fellow. And I thought, absolutely right. And so it's moments like that. We miss the performative side, you know.
That's brilliant, Christine. Well done. Maureen, you got any?
Well, there's so many. I mean, oh, look, no, okay. So working with the young company was something when we did the space between us, that the sharing and the bonding that went on, and it was backwards and forwards, and it was wonderful. But it was things, we'd have workshops because we'd always meet up for rehearsals in the front room, and it quite often linked to whatever was going on in the main space, if there was a manoeuvre or something. And I can't believe it, I had to get on the phone to friends and family later that night, because Andy would get us to do things. It wasn't like the drama stuff, it was like the movement and performing that we would think, can't do that. Anyway, I was crowd surfing, wasn't I? We were in groups of 6, and we had big fellas. We've got Alan as one of our group of 6, and you made your way to the end of the queue, and you had a leg or an arm each, and you put that person up there and held them, you know, in a crowd seat. And then when it got to me, and Andy was stood there, and I said, I can't do that. And he said, yes, you can. And he hoisted me on the neck, like this. But then they sort of didn't let me go gently at the end. I sort of totted off. But the fact was, I'd actually done that. And then one time during the space, and there was a lot of movement, and we were told to sink into the ground. Well, I could sink into the ground, but I couldn't get up. And so they wanted the young company to make a shape of a coffee table, you know, like on his hands and knees, but with his back. And I sat on his back, and then I could slide from his back onto the floor. But then he wandered off and I couldn't get up again. And I thought, I can't put that boy through that. So for days and days, I practiced at home. And so being in the elders sort of tested me in different ways, like the memory of remembering stuff, but physically. And so at the end of it, I could just spring up like a chicken. So
Brilliant,
it's just,
brilliant.
Very good.
just different things like that,
Yeah.
that come away from it, having to phone a family to say you won't believe it. And it wasn't being Shakespeare, it was just being a performer. The director said you can do it. And I think we all could, and we still can.
Yeah. We all want to do some acting, don't we? We've missed it really. You know, performing, being actually in the show would be lovely.
Dave, anything?
Okay. Now I've had time to think. I just say it's the warm embrace of the people that make up the elders and
Yeah.
who run it, and the organisation itself.
Yes,
Provide
yes.
support for me to be creative and to do things I would never have dreamt I'd be doing at my age.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very good.
Yeah.
I'll just say for me, can I just say something to thank Dave for something he did very early on in all that? Because when we moved on to touch, it was all about movement. And I felt really, really unsure about doing any of that, given that I'd had polio and stuff. And it just was not something that was natural or easy for me. And Dave, well, it's not anything he particularly said, but we went for a coffee and he just listened to me. And, said, well, give it a go. And you don't have to stay, but you give it a go and see how it goes. And I did, and I'm glad I did. So thank you for that, Dave.
You're very welcome.
More generally, what I'm just finding is just hearing everybody like this has just lifted my mood. It's such a positive thing to remember. It's easy to forget some of them. I remember loads of things. I mean, one particular thing that I really enjoyed was coming in with Helen on the metro, on the tram, and it wasn't me guiding her. I was holding on to her to keep me up, and I was stop me from falling over, and I was, if you like, stopping her from banging into people. And anyway, with the two of us there, people usually we had a sort of a force field around us that people sort of just partied as we wandered along. It was really, really good fun, that. But the other big moment was for me was that the opening of Touch with that music coming on and the silence, and just sent a shiver through my spine when I heard it. It was really, really powerful. And also the feeling at the end of the play, we've actually done it. The elation that you get there is something you rarely feel. That depth of feeling just sort of rushes through you. It's amazing feeling. Anyway, that was great.
It was marvellous. Marvellous.
The second question isn't quite as as obvious as the next one. What creativity means to you in later life? It's a more general question, not just about the elders, I suppose, but what does creativity, which I suppose is one of the reasons we all got involved in the elders, but has anybody got any answer to that? What creativity means to you in later life? Sandy.
It stops me thinking I'm in later life.
Who says it's later life? Midlife. Susan, you going to say something?
Well, I feel it's a bit of a challenge because, in fact, it's a huge challenge for me because I've not done anything creative really since I've been older and at the age I am now. So it's all a huge challenge. I find it's a good challenge. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. No, not at all. But it's something that I will get better at dealing with the more I do it. But at my age, it's hard, really, because it's hard to remember stuff, particularly lines and stuff like that, that sort of creativity is no longer with me. I can't remember simple things, and which is very annoying. You know, where you put stuff down and all that sort of stuff, which simple stuff. Where the hell did I put it? Oh my God! Oh, I've already been through that this morning with something, and but I think that probably having these challenges when we are older, and I am one of the oldest, I know that amongst you all, is probably a good thing because it makes you try harder. And I don't think that's a bad thing, no matter how old you are, you know. So that's my thoughts on the matter.
Thank you. Anybody else? Derek.
You see, I relate to what Sandy says. You know, other than the physical aspects, and I'm really conscious of this with my bad knee at the moment, but you know, I think this would apply to Lorraine and Maureen. You know, that you're performers, and it's no different now than when you were doing it before. So I mean, I look at it, and I think it just happens that we identify it because this is the opportunity that the Royal Exchange has given it. They focused on our age, but I don't see any difference from when I was doing drama work in prisons or with young offenders or performing with the Dingle Community Theatre. You know, that we're still involved in creativity, and I you know, like, we can focus on the age factor because that's formally what we are, or because we're answering a questionnaire. But I think it's still about the same things as when you're a young person doing theatre. You know, you want to get as much out of it, and all the aspects that we talked in the previous part of the discussion. You know, that we enjoy creativity,
Yeah.
we enjoy working together, and we're then surprised when we extend ourselves in ways that, you know, that the magic of performance can do. So I don't think it's very different from when I've performed in previous parts of my life. I mean, I love it as much as ever, and you know, I appreciate the opportunity that we have collectively. But I'm you know, I'm not overly conscious of the fact that, you know, I happen to be 75, or, you know, that I'm enjoying you know, the theatre, and the challenge. There are challenges physically, but it's, you know, it's still about all the other things it used to be about.
I think you're right. It's not, the question should be, what does creativity mean to you now?
Yeah.
You know, it's not really about the age. The age thing is not the key bit of it, is it? Sorry,
Just
somebody
a
else.
number there. That's just a number.
Did somebody else?
Got nothing to do with
Was it
your
Lorraine?
age.
Lorraine? Yeah.
I'm just, there is a difference, I think. I mean, the Elders has been a bit of a revelation to me, really, even though I have done things in the past. And it's the commitment that's different. Everyone has got this high level of commitment that you rarely see out in the Amdram world, because I don't know, it's just different. Being properly directed, you know, and pulling the bones out of things, and, you know, it's very different, and the commitment, I think, is the thing. Everyone is committed to make whatever we do a success, and I think it's quite rare. I really do. Whether it's because we're older, I don't know, but it has been a revelation, I have to say, that the Elders.
I think,
Gordon?
again, I think it comes back to what David said, really, how the Andy particularly, well, he's driven it, hasn't he, right from the word go, how he's created this atmosphere that repeats itself time and time again with enjoyment and commitment. And it's a revelation to you. Well, it was to me anyway, because I'd not done a lot of performing really. Pounced about on the church hall. You know, but yeah, I think it's just been a revelation that
Marvelous.
yeah, that Andy's and the exchange have created that platform for us to give of ourselves and not be self-conscious. It's just been amazing, really.
Has anybody got any examples of creativity that has improved because of your being part of this? Any? Have you seen?
I suppose it built the confidence
Yep. That's the important part, isn't it?
and the imagination a bit more. It's helped me with that.
When we did statues, that Scandinavian chap, and we did tableaus of the statues that he'd done. And that sort of creativity was completely new to me. It gave me a different view, of looking at art in a way, because you could associate what you'd done at the exchange with sculptures and things you saw. So that's directly affected, my appreciation of it, of sculpture.
Anybody else? Well, I feel that I've really developed video editing skills, which is really, it was really good, especially during the depths of the pandemic, to have something to really study and try and improve doing it with a purpose was really, really useful. It's kind of less so now because we've moved into a different phase.
I think the thing about creativity, which is like, the original question, just for me, I think if you can't be creative, then you might as well pack it in and sit in a chair for the rest of your life. and I hope, as a group, we are all creative people, and yeah. So I think if I couldn't be creative, I think I'd just want to, I don't know, curl up and that's it. I don't know if other people feel like that, really.
It's something we're all passionate about as well. We're all passionate. We all love it. We do it because we want to do it, not being.
Can I ask about the musical? The musical stuff that you're doing with Bill? Because I've not really been involved in that. I've just stayed out of it for some reason. I don't know. Is that going well, creatively speaking?
It's been an education again, hasn't it, really? And the last thing Bill did with the score, where David started with the violins, didn't he? And put that down on a sheet of music, and Jackie had the harp, and I think there were 4 people who did it, but that was just fantastic, really, just an insight into writing a tune.
No, he actually created a piece of music on a sheet when you would see it when it was complete, with all the notes and how he created the notes and put them where they were, and then we'd actually hear what that bit sounded like, and then the next bit. And honestly, you had this feeling in your stomach that sort of came up and went, like that, as it grew, and the sounds, and that had just been created in one Zoom call, that piece of music, and it was unique and ours. So that was wonderful to see him actually at work doing what he does.
Okay, another question is, what does being in the elders mean to you? I think we've talked about that in a way. Is there anything you'd like to add on that? Or maybe, I think it is more generally about the elders and what it means for you. Anybody got any comments on that?
Yeah.
Maureen?
It's just, I can remember like the first, because Brenda was connected with the Royal Exchange because of her granddaughters, and this is how we found out about going to start the elders group, and we were invited to different workshops over time. And then the last one, he said, I'm pleased to say, you're part of the elders group. And I remember there must have been something going on in the main hall, because if that was happening, you couldn't leave downstairs, you had to go down the back stairs. And I was making my way out, and I still wasn't sure whether he meant I was part of the Royal Exchange. So he was talking to somebody, and I just looked over and I said, caught his eye, and I said, Andy, does that mean I'm now a member of the Royal Exchange Theatre? He just nodded. And I went, yes. You know, how can I, you know, inner city Manchester girl, all these years, and now, oh yeah, no, that feeling, I can just still feel it.
Well done.
Doesn't leave
Yeah.
you, does it? It doesn't leave you.
No, never.
No.
I wonder how it will be in the future. You know, as we get back to some degree of normality, whether this will kind of fade away a bit, and that feeling that we've had towards each other and ourselves as a group is inevitably going to become a bit more dispersed, isn't it?
We'll never forget it though, and we'll hold it.
No.
Really do.
That's right, we won't.
I don't think so. Because from my experience, it's been a constant right from the word go, and it's still as strong as it was, you know, when I first started.
Yeah. Anybody else got any comments about that? Or the last question was about best bits you have on creativity from the Royal Exchange or the Elders Programme, or any other thoughts about that? Any other thoughts that have come to you that related to all this? For us to end on a particular high for this particular session.
They're all best bits, really, aren't they?
Carry on. Just to keep creating and for us to all to keep carrying on, doing what we're doing,
Yeah, carry on creating, and the next Carry On film.
and keep doing what we're doing.
I like the way Steve and all the professionals, particularly the directorate, talk to us and get involved with us, because that makes you feel as though you are part of the company and not just something that they do as a sideline. So it's really nice that Steve and Roy and all the others get involved with us.
Yeah, including the technical people who told us where to stand, and you know, the sound levels and all that business. It does. It makes you feel a little bit special, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what it reminds me of a bit is when you go in and have an operation. I know this sounds ridiculous, but everybody there is all geared up, and there are all these people focused on you.
When I died and we all went to his funeral, I thought that was really moving.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. We're treated like professionals.
Yeah. Anyway, that was really good. Thank you very much.